How can we make sure our thyroid works properly? Don't you think that it's kind of strange that a great amount of people have thyroid problems and problems related to metabolism? The vast majority of hypothyroidism are not related to hormonal problems. It's not the functionality of the gland that is actually affecting our metabolism, but instead it's related to our immune system, and this is called Hashimoto's. But let's first understand why thyroid hormones are so important for our health. And the thyroid hormone has many different functions that affects our entire body, such as the development of the brain, as far as helping with our skin. And this happens because all the cells in the body have receptors for the thyroid hormone. And this is a big deal because if my thyroid gland fails or the hormones produced are altered, all my metabolism is going to be out of whack. It's going to be completely altered. This is when hypothyroidism symptoms begin to appear, such as cold hands and feet, dry skin, fluid retention and swelling of the feet, difficulty losing weight no matter how much effort we put in it, problems with cholesterol, thinning of hair and nails, and even hair loss. Constipation, and that's because we have less bowel movement, sweating problems that are low to none, loss of libido, insomnia, and even depression. And to fix this gland and even prevent any of these problems, we need to pay attention to how the gland works and how it produces these hormones. All of our hormones, like testosterone, are controlled by a cascading effect of many different steps that is determined by our body and when it will need those hormones, such as when it needs more and when it's going to need less of a specific hormone. In this case of thyroid, we have a hormone called TSH, and it comes from our brain, an area called the pituitary, which its function is to stimulate the gland to produce more hormones. Therefore, so long the production of hormones it's enough for the body, there's no need to increase TSH. But when thyroid hormones T3 and T4 are not sufficient, meaning that they're not meeting the demand for the body, your body will try to increase the production of TSH. So let's recap with everything that I've said so far. If I'm lacking thyroid function, then my body will try to ramp up the TSH production so I can produce more hormones. But the problem today with the majority of thyroid problems is that they are immune related and they're not hormonal. The majority of the hypothyroidism problems today have to do with the immune system, which the antibodies attack the thyroid gland as if it was a foreign body that needs to be eliminated. The disease responsible for this is called Hashimoto's disease. In order to repair our thyroid gland, we first need to understand if our problem is hormonal or immune system related, because the solutions for both are different. So how would we know if our thyroid problems is a result of our immune system? Well, basically it is by measuring our antibodies that destroy the gland, specifically those antibodies that are related to Hashimoto, which are called anti-thyroid peroxidase and anti-thyroid globulin. Basically, these antibodies see the gland as if it was an external body or a threat to the body, and the more elevated these antibodies are, the more the thyroid gets destroyed. The interesting aspect about Hashimoto's is that it takes a long time for these antibodies to destroy the gland. Many times it could take years before we ever see a problem related to hypothyroidism. The good news is that we can see the elevation of these antibodies before we ever have symptoms with hypothyroidism. This tells us that we can do something before it ever becomes a problem. The first thing to understand is understanding the things that are causing this problem. This disease can appear mainly after giving birth, showing us that high levels of estrogen can contribute to thyroid problems. And the estrogens like E4 and E16, which cause accumulation of fat in thighs, glutes, and hips, these types of estrogens block the correct function of the thyroid. Now, on the other hand, the majority of the scenarios that cause autoimmune problems has to do with the health of our digestive system. Today, we know that the permeability of our intestine creates so many different autoimmune related problems. This means that our digestive system has a barrier that divides the food and gut flora from our arteries and immune system. When this barrier breaks open, it stops being permeable, and the bacteria that is meant to stay in the intestine freely flows into our bloodstream, creating problems. As a result, our immune system reacts by creating inflammation in our body. So what's the solution to Hashimoto's? Well, first we need to understand that we need to solve the root issue, the root problem. If the root problem is permeability, then fixing that permeability needs to be the priority and not the inflammation, because solving the permeability will solve both. Now, to solve the permeability issue, several things will need to be addressed. The first thing is that we need to fix our gut flora. And that's because a bad gut flora or excess of candida or parasites are going to make difficult fixing the permeability issue. And that's because those things generate constant inflammation. Therefore, doing things that improve my gut flora is one thing to keep at top of the list. To make this more simple, I can consume probiotics, which are helpful for bacteria, and also prebiotics that are going to feed my probiotics. These prebiotics are soluble fibers that help our gut flora and controls the amount of bacteria that grows in our gut. The second aspect is that we need to know if we have some form of food intolerance. And the reason why it's because if I eat gluten and I have an intolerance to it, then every day I will be creating inflammation in my digestive system, which it could lead to intestinal permeability. This could happen in any other food that I'm intolerant to or allergic to. Therefore, if we want to repair the permeability in the gut and lower the autoimmune response that's attacking my thyroid gland, we need to avoid the foods that I'm intolerant to. And this happens because many proteins that we're not able to properly digest then create an immune response, and that's to create inflammation. The third aspect is now we can address the permeability issue. Now that we have addressed and balanced our gut flora, we also avoided the food that will create an immune response and create inflammation. It's now time to close the membrane and to close that barrier that is broken. And for that, we can use foods and supplements to repair that barrier. And the first food is going to be bone broth, which basically is just simply broth made out of bones, and we can consume in small amounts daily. Second is to consume collagen, which is effective also for permeability issues, but less effective than bone broth. Consuming collagen comes in many subtypes, and it's necessary that you make sure to consume subtype 1, 3, 5, and also 10, which are essential for permeability. And this is important to mention because collagen that's heavily marketed for joint problems is not going to be good to solve this permeability issue because there are different subtypes. The third option, and this is mainly for those following a vegan diet, is to consume amino acid called glutamine. Consuming approximately 5 grams per day makes it an effective amount and an effective quantity to repair this wall. But remember that this is less effective than the previous options that I mentioned earlier. Now, if this is an autoimmune problem, we have to do something for our immune system. Well, many nutrients that helps us better our gut flora, for example, also helps us to better our immune system. The first nutrient worth mentioning is selenium, which is a trace mineral that's necessary in low amounts for stimulating our immune system, but also essential for our thyroid. That's because selenium helps transform T4 to T3, which is the most effective and most active form of thyroid hormone, and also one that can act on the nucleus of all the cells around the body. But we also seen studies in which low levels of sodium are related to hypothyroidism and Hashimoto's. Selenium has also shown to lower the levels of antibodies that cause Hashimoto's. Next, we have zinc and vitamin D, which are two supplements that are essential to stimulate our immune system and that helps to prevent the production of antibodies that harm our thyroid. These were the solutions for autoimmune responses and the solutions to repair permeability problems for a disease like Hashimoto's. But what happens if my issue it's a normal hypothyroidism? For that, stay tuned for the next video because we're going to see in detail how to solve the other side of hypothyroidism. And like always, if you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, leave us a comment, and let us know what else you'd like us to cover. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe, turn on notifications so you never miss a video. See you on the next one.